Righty. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining in. My name is Sachin. If you read me loud and clear, please say yes on the chat. Yes, Kuldeep. Afroz Uma. Jim, how are you today? It's a pretty odd time at your place, is it? Oh, but you are in Dubai, are you? Debashish, how are you, my brother? Let's get it started. 9:30. Yes, the Dubai, right? That's fine. So I'm going to share my screen and let me know when you see something on the screen, please. Week 7. Did you realize it's been 7 weeks since we are doing this? Awesome. Adil, how are you doing today? When's your exam? All right, let's get it started. So I'm going to share. Adil, did you book the exam yet? Am I visible to you guys? Do you guys see me? How about you, Professor? Except of that tailbone, I'm doing pretty fine. Oh, that pains like hell. Right. That's one bad thing. Okay, not yet. Yesterday I received the approval mail. Congratulations on that. Your application got approved. This is one step ahead. Yep, fantastic. Okay, let's get it started. So, as every week, we're going to start with the questions. I have 20 questions for you guys. We're going to talk about the answers to those and why that's the correct answer. We can talk about that as well. Good morning, Professor. Good morning, everyone. Swapnil, how are you? Oh, that's a surprise that you joined today's session. Doing good? All right. Let's start with the first part, in which we will take the questions for the PMP preparation. Second half, we'll again have your questions. If you have a question, you can post that. I'll be more than happy to answer those. Let's start with the first question on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. A senior executive requests a major change that would significantly alter the project's timelines and the budget. You are in the execution phase of a predictive project. What should you do? Four options. But then when it significantly alters the timeline and the budget, why would you go Bravo? Why not Charlie then? But while it's the baselines, why the Bravo? I know you guys, you know the answer. I know that. But why? First you analyze, then you take the action, is it? Before you take any action, you need to analyze the situation. And that is why the impact analysis is required. So I'm going to go, Bravo. I'm going to go with you. Yep. All significant changes during the execution requires a formal impact assessment. There we go. Abdul went Alpha. Good morning to you, my brother. How are you today? Event Alpha. Inform the sponsor and implement the changes immediately. You can do that. Implementing the change is to take an action. You cannot take an action without doing the impact analysis. Okay, that's the rule number one. So I'm going to go Bravo, and that's the correct answer. Question number two. Your hybrid project requires compliances with the new data privacy regulations introduced mid-project. Now that's a hybrid project, okay? Non-compliance would result in legal penalties. What should you do first? You see, these questions which says what you should do next, what should you do first, these are pretty tricky. I can tell you that. First thing that you need to do, Good morning, Khalifa. How are you? So yeah, you see, be it the compliances, be it any other change, it's a change request, and you have to follow the process. What's the name of the process? She asks. What's the name of the process? The ICC, Perform Integrated Change Control Process. Correct? So you have to do that first. Perform an impact analysis. Charlie, should be the answer. Regulatory compliance changes must be treated like any other change, right? So a change is a change. Question number 3. While crashing a schedule on a large infrastructure project, you observe the team productivity dropping and the morale plummeting. What is the best course of action? Now, that's a good one, actually. So, when you talk about the rewards and recognitions that we talked about during the execution, Module 4, uh, supporting the team's performance. So, don't you think increase in the financial incentives can boost the productivity and performance and uplift the morale of the team members? Don't you think that, Walid? Srinay, what's wrong with Delta? We talked about the rewards and recognitions, didn't we? So why you don't want to go Delta? Tell me. Anybody? Open question. Why you don't wish to go Delta? There is nothing wrong with the ethics if I'm giving financial incentives. If I'm telling my people that, hey guys, you do this in this month, you're going to get this reward. You know where the answer is? On the last line. What is the best course of action? Okay. So the Charlie and Delta, they both are the probable answers. But which one is the best one? That's what the question is asking. So the best is to introduce phased crashing, because what is happening is that you're crashing too much, right? And because of that, the team is going into a burn down, right? So they're feeling exhausted because you are crashing a 4 days activity into 2 days activity, a 20 days activity into a 10 days activity. So people are putting in extra hours, they are running. So the best is to go phase by phase rather than, crashing the whole project. You crash one area of the project and then you try and adjust the performance. You try and keep the morale up, okay, provide that support, and then you go for the next phase, crash that one only. So rather than putting too much of the pressure on the team, let's go one day at a time. So that's what Charlie is. Let's see. Yep. Excessive crashing can lead to the burnout. This is what I said. A phased approach with a proper support maintains the performance. Question number 4, ladies and gentlemen. You are in a matrix organization and your team is split across 2 departments. One functional manager keeps reassigning the key team members without notice. What should you do? It's a matrix organization. The functional manager and the project manager coexist. Okay. And the people from the functional departments comes and becomes the team members. So this functional manager keeps assigning, reassigning my team members to the departmental work, which he can, by the way. But the problem is, he's not giving you a notice. He's not talking to you. He's not telling you that, hey, buddy, for the next 2 days, I need to pull out a deal. right, from your project because she needs to do a few reports for the organization, for the department. He's not telling me that. He's just pulling Hadil. Now, since Hadil reports to him as the head of the department, he's the one who owns all of these resources. But at the same time, Hadil also have accountability towards the project. All of you think that you need to go Bravo? Think again. Read the options again. All the four options make sense. You know how much effort it takes to write these questions? On purpose, I keep the options similar. Okay, I'll tell you. The answer is actually Bravo. Okay? You look at the calendar and then you go and talk to the functional manager that, all right, buddy. So I need Hadil only for a couple of days. You can utilize your resource, she's your resource at the end of the day, for the rest of the 3 days. I just need her for those 2 days. Now, if your calendar, allows you to release the resource for these 2 days and then take her back, get her to work on your reports, we can go, mutual, right? So in matrix environments, negotiations is the key. You must clarify the resource availability and only escalate if the disruption persists. You know why? Because you see, you think you're powerful, okay? So is he. He is the head of the functional department, right? So he's also a very powerful guy. You don't want to mess with this guy, I can tell you that, because you need to coexist with him. Tomorrow he'll stop giving you the resources. So the best is to negotiate and come to an agreement. Now, negotiations reminds me that there was a meeting of the century that happened day before yesterday. A lot of negotiations went on that. Question, sir. If disruption persists, then what to do? Escalate. Request the HR's intervention to address interdepartmental conflict. The HR will pitch in. And that's why Srini said the Charlie also makes sense. Yeah, Srini? He said it. It actually makes sense. But that is after the Bravo. Good, right? Question number 5. You are managing a hybrid program. A stakeholder request shift in the scope of your current project to align with the newly prioritized initiatives in the portfolio. What's your best move? Good question. Tell me. It's a program. I'm looking at the answers right now. A lot of you are apparently going Charlie's here. Okay, tell me. What is a program? What's the definition? And please do not say group of projects is a program. That's not right. I mean, in a way, it's a group, but then there is a differentiator. What is that? So the people who do not recall what a program is, let me remind you. The program is a group of interrelated, now that's the key word, interrelated. A group of interrelated projects managed in a coordinated way to obtain the benefits which are not possible by doing those projects individually. So if you start doing those projects as individual projects, you will never be able to achieve those benefits. Okay? And that's why you keep them as a part of the, because these are all interrelated projects. You keep them as a single unit. Now, out of all of these projects, the project that you're currently working, the stakeholder says that you shift the scope of your current project so that it aligns to the prioritized initiatives of a portfolio. Now, what's the definition of the portfolio? Portfolio, ladies and gentlemen, what's the key differentiator here? So, portfolio is a group of related or non related programs, projects, sub projects, sub program, even the operational data managed as a single unit to suffice to strategic business objectives. SBO, that's the keyword. Strategic business objectives. Just like for an example, when you say Ford Motors, the Ford Motors is the fourth biggest car manufacturing company in the world. Now that has operations in many different countries. So Ford is coming back to India now, but they wrapped up their business in 2019 in India and also in Pakistan and Bangladesh. All of these. I mean, so that was again a strategy that they had in their mind. So, but Ford has been my customer in the past, right? So I know their structure. So there was a time when Ford had a lot of these cars selling in India and in Pakistan. But then the Ford will not call it the Ford India, or Ford Pakistan, or Ford China. What the Ford would call that? The Ford Asia. Okay. So why would Ford group all of these countries into a single unit? These are not related, right? Are they? Because the projects which are happening in Ford India, let's say, they're absolutely different from what is happening in Pakistan or what is happening in China, right? So the car models that the Ford India is working on are different. The car models that China is working on are different, but still they are the part of the same group. Why? Because they suffice to a strategic business objective. For an example, the strategic business objective could be 5% increase in Asia business. That could be a strategic, one of the strategic objectives. Now, to suffice to that 5%, India will contribute, let's say, 25% of that. China will contribute 40% of that. Pakistan, maybe 15%. Other, Singapore, maybe some percentage, and so on and so forth, right? So these are grouped together because they suffice to a business objective, correct? Now, when you change those business objectives, you need to realign your portfolios and programs accordingly. And this is exactly what the stakeholder is saying. But then, if you see, first again comes the assessment, then comes the action. Now, adjusting the schedule is an action. Defer the request is an action. Reject the request is an action that you are taken. The only option where you're doing the analysis is to assess the portfolio impact and submit a scope change for the review. Once that gets approved, go ahead, align that. I'm not saying that you cannot realign your scope. I'm saying you cannot realign that without having an impact analysis of that. Okay. So everybody, so you need to build the consensus that yes, we are doing it, but that's the impact. If you guys agree on that, we can go ahead and do that. Correct? So Charlie is the answer. Question number 6, ladies and gentlemen. Midway through a complex HR transformation project, the team velocity drops sharply. Stakeholders demand explanation. Which action is most appropriate? Agile projects. Velocity. What was velocity? Kuldeep, what was that? Anybody? Open question. The deal? Kuma? Shreyas? Time to complete. No, I disagree. That's not velocity. The productivity of what? The productivity of the team to track how much work a team can complete. Bingo. Yes, Khalifa. All right. The amount of work a team can complete during a sprint. Yes. So that means it is not. Okay. Is that a measure to check the productivity of the team? Velocity. Is that a measure to check how productive the team is? No, right? That's not a measure of the productivity. What is the measure of the productivity of the team? That's called the throughput analysis. So the throughput is when you check that how quickly the team members were able to pull an item from one area of the Kanban board to the other area of the Kanban board, from the design to development, from development to testing, testing to the UAT, how fast these teams were able to pull those items to the next stage. That is the productivity. The idea behind the velocity is to do an estimation of how many story points we should be able to cover in that particular sprint. Now, what you're looking at, that this is sharply going down. So the velocity was 80 story points, then came down to 76. Now it is 72. Now that's an area of concern. So what we need to do. Now I told you a very important thing in our discussions during the class that the PMI says the velocity is not very reliable when it comes to the first to the fifth sprint. Correct? And then it starts to settle down from sixth, seventh, eighth. And from the ninth onwards is when you say with confidence that this is the velocity of my project. Okay. Now, what's happening here is that it is beyond the ninth sprint now because you are midway through the project. So that means it is definitely beyond 9 sprints. Now, if it is going down, that should be an area of concern. If that was the start of the project, or maybe a couple of weeks, or maybe say 5, 6 weeks down the line, or you wouldn't take any action. But now, since it is beyond that, you have to go into a retrospective. You have to call your people, hey guys, come here. What's wrong, guys? What's wrong? So the velocity is going down. Why is that? So conduct a retrospective to analyze the underlying causes collaboratively. Now, you have to collaborate with the stakeholders because in Agile, it's a frequent collaboration between the product owner and the project team members. Correct? Alpha is the answer. The same that I just explained is the explanation here. Question number 7. You are leading a high risk project and a subcontractor under a fixed price contract fails a major quality inspection. What should you do, Jesus? A high risk project and he fails the quality inspection. God bless him. I guess there is a fight between Alpha and Charlie, isn't it? But why are you guys going Charlie's only? Why not Alpha? What's wrong with the Alpha? The submit a change request, you do the impact analysis, you try and manage that. Why you guys want to go Charlie? Yeah, I know it's a fixed price contract. Now, what's the bad thing about fixed price contract? Tell me. I told you something about it during the classes. The fixed price contract is the most dangerous contract for the contractor because in this contract type, the contractor has absolutely no incentives to control the cost risk. The whole cost risk is with the contractor. Okay. So if there is an impact, It's going to be on the contractor. The second thing is that when it comes to the procurement, we stick to what the contract is. So any deviations from the terms of the contract comes under the compliances. Correct? Now, the answer is Charlie. Enforcing the contract terms through the formal notice is essential. It creates legal documentation and holds the vendors accountable without escalating prematurely. That's why. That's the answer. Question number 8. A cross-functional stakeholder insists on adding a last-minute feature to the next sprint, citing a regulatory deadline. The product owner disagrees. Who disagrees? The product owner. What should the project manager do? It's a regulatory deadline. You took quite some time to answer that. You see, we've been taught that the product owner is the owner of the backlog. Nothing comes in or goes out without the approval of the product owner. Now, the product owner is disagreeing that we need to do that. Okay. I get it. But tell me, when it comes to the other stakeholders, they also have some priority in the project, isn't it? So it is better to, you see, I don't know, you remember that one line that I said during the lesson number 4, during the execution, I said consensus is a big word in project management. Maybe the biggest word in project management is consensus. You remember that line? You have to build the consensus. I mean, even if your part allows you to go autocratic, you cannot go autocratic, can you? So, yeah, as for that, the correct answer is alpha. You involve all the parties and then you sit with them, then you do the reprioritization of the backlog items. Moving on. You guys are doing good. Shreyas gave bravo. That was one wrong answer. Question number 9. You are leading a multi-phase project and the first phase has exceeded the cost and the time estimates, which is really common. So there's nothing wrong with that. The sponsor is demanding the cost saving suggestions before approving the next phase. So what is happening? The steering committee meeting, right? So that's where you're taking a call. If we should go to the next phase, if we should stay in the same phase, or should we go with modifications, or should we even terminate the project right here? What should you do? A lot of bravos, apparently. Are you guys sure? Are you sure? Okay. The answer is bravo. I give that to you. You guys don't deviate, do you? You review the lessons learned and propose a scope, risk, cost, trade-off. Now, why is that? You see, if you go back to Sir Harold Kurzner's triple constraint theorem, what it suggests that balancing your time, cost, and scope into the framework of quality delivering the customer's expectations, right? So that's the theorem. So if you look at that, so Kostner said that as a project manager, you need to balance out three different things in order to achieve the fourth. Why? Because that's the only thing that satisfies the customer. And you need to juggle between the scope and the cost and the time. You play that juggling act to deliver a quality product service result. Correct. Now, in order to do that, you cannot compromise on quality, can you? That's the only thing that you cannot compromise on. But then you can look at the scope, you can look at the cost, you can look at the schedule, the amount of risk that you have, and then you can trade off. You can try and adjust that. Yeah. So yes, bravo. That's the answer. Question number 10, ladies and gentlemen. An HR team keeps missing its definition of done criteria for the deliverables. The Scrum Master has flagged this several times. What is the best step now? The DoD, the acceptance criteria in HR project management. I'm waiting. Alpha, think again. All right. That's actually an easy answer. Okay, I give it to you. That's alpha. What is definition of the DoD? The definition of the DoD itself is definition of done. It's a kind of a checklist, Abdul, which would have the checkpoints and the checkboxes, right? So during the project, you keep ticking those. Okay, did we deliver the release one? Done. Did we deliver the release two? Done. Did we achieve these features? Done. Did we incorporate these features which were suggested by the product owner from the previous sprint? Done. Right? So it's a kind of a checklist. We make that. The team and the product owner sit together, define those checkboxes and checkpoints. Once all of these are ticked, we consider that whole project as delivered. So the acceptance criteria, we call it the acceptance criteria and predictive methodology, which you define during defining the scope. It's a part of the project scope statement. Now, similar document in HL is called the DoD, the definition of done. Okay. Question number 11, ladies and gentlemen. During a multi-phase infrastructure project, the vendor disputes a contract closure related to the scope changes, claiming the project team is requesting out of the scope work without adjusting the payments. What should the project manager do first? Your first step. If I was you, I will go Bravo. Review the original contract and documented change request for the compliances. So the vendor is claiming that this work was not in the scope. Let's see what the scope was, what the contract was. And then if a change request is required, maybe that may so happen that yes, a few of these deliverables are actually not the part of the vendor scope. So even if we have to include those, we can always generate a change request, right? And do an impact analysis, go for the approval. We can do that. We call it the change order. So within the same contract, we can place a change order, but that's after the analysis and the approval. So if I was you, I'm going to go Bravo. But the practical should be, uh, what is it? Negotiable? Negotiate, is that what you're saying? And maintain the relationship to other contract. Don't go what you do at the site. Go what the book tells you to do if you need to pass the exam. Abdul, you see, on the first day, hey Abdul, were you in my class? You were one of my participant? Yes? So if you were, then if you recall, on the very first day, I said that the learning is not a problem. Unlearning is the problem. So there would be a lot of things during this course that you need to learn, but even more things that you need to unlearn. Because when you all are seasoned project managers, right? So working on projects for 10 years and 15 years and 20 years now. And when you go back and read the book actually contradicts with what you do at the site. And then you ask yourself this question, that means what I've been doing my whole life was wrong. But why should I change that? I've been successful. Just because you've been successful, that doesn't make that a right practice. Agree on that? Yeah, this is the hardest. Yep. All right. What's the answer? The answer is the first step is to review the original contract and documented change requests for the compliances. Moving on. Question number 12. In a large hybrid program, a governance gap has resulted in conflict in decisions from multiple PMOs, causing confusion among the teams. What is the best corrective action? There's a governance gap. Jim, what do you think is the answer, brother? Hey, how many people do we have in class today in this session? Ah, good number. It's 20 plus. Fantastic. If I am to go between alpha and delta, right, implement a more detailed communication plan. You see, that's a fair answer, actually. Delta is also a doable action. But the question is the best corrective action. Now, whenever it comes to project management, when it comes to the situations where you have the conflict, first you need to coordinate. Okay? Sit together, build consensus. That's what we need to do. So consolidate the governance rules and clarify why there's a confusion in the team because they do not know that should I listen to the member alpha of the PMO or to the member Bravo because they have conflicting views, correct? The confusion with the team is that who should we listen to? Should we listen to this guy or this guy? So you need to clarify the decision making authority that who is actually the one who can take those decisions. So I'm going to go alpha, plain and simple. Clear governance structure with defined roles avoids conflict in directions and enable consistent support. Oh, decisions. Question 13, ladies and gentlemen. A key stakeholder is resistant HR adaptation due to perceived lack of control and documentation. What is the most effective approach? That's very common. The people who are predominantly working on the predictive methodology projects, they find it difficult initially to adjust with the agile because the agile is more about coordination, less about the documentation. The predictive is all plan driven, everything should be documented. You cannot go alpha, can you? Definitely cannot go alpha. Bravo is a one potential answer. Only for their work streams, if you're gonna want to go predictive, it is not an agile project, then it is a hybrid project. Limit the stakeholders and involvement. Can't do that. Okay, so if you use the process of elimination, there's only one possible answer here, which is the Bravo. Educate the stakeholders on agile benefits and involve them in the sprint reviews. I'm going to go Bravo. That's the answer. Question number 14. Your earned value analysis shows that the SPI is 1.1, but the project is behind schedule due to delayed regulatory approvals. How should you interpret this? The SPI is positive. Oh, that's a good one, and I know the answer now. And I know what you guys gonna answer. I know that as well. Ah, some wisdom now. The deal. What's the answer go? Kuldeep goes Bravo. Kumar goes Shall. You see, it's contradicting answers. Jimmy, even Hadil and Jimmy goes Bravo. All right. The correct answer is actually the surprise, surprise. I told you, I know the answer, and I also know that what you're gonna answer. I know that as well. Didn't I say that? The SPI reflects only the work performed, so the schedule lays must be managed separately. SPI, what's the formula to the SPI? Tell me. What's the formula to calculate the SPI? The planned value divided by the earned value. Ah, earned value divided by the planned value, right? So it's a measure of what is the work progress versus what you planned, correct? So what the actual progress is divided by the work that you have planned. Okay. Now, when it comes to regulatory, these are the external risks, just like a part of your VUCAs and teacups and pastels. And that needs to be discussed separately. You see, the SPI is not a measure of that. SPI says that what's your level of productivity. So when you say 0.5, what 0.5 SPI tells you? That when you work the whole day, your productivity is equals to half a day. Correct? Now that has nothing to do with this schedule delays. It's a measure to tell you how effective your your schedule performance is. We're not talking about the variances, by the way. We're talking about the SVR. SV, the schedule variance, tells you where do you stand. Are you ahead of the project schedule? Are you behind the schedule? Right? All right. I knew you're going to go between Bravos and Charlies. I knew that. I told you that before. Question 15. Good one. Awesome. Question number 15. During a contract closeout, the vendor refuses to provide all the required deliverables citing the contract ambiguities. How should the project manager proceed? At the closure, the vendor is very clever. I can tell you that. The very clever vendor. Are you sure it should be Bravo? I guess sure. Just because it's a lengthy answer, does that mean it's the right answer? Yeah, Abdul is like, yes, sir. This time I'm sure. Yeah, this time I'm sure. What's wrong with Charlie, Abdul? Why not Charlie? Okay. The answer is actually Bravo. First, we need to review the contract. Yeah. First, because he's citing the contract ambiguities. He said, how do I know that these were the deliverables? These are not clarified in the contract. All right, buddy, come here, sit. Let's see the contract then. Correct? Rather than say, you know what, you're going to get a legal notice from my department. They're going to deal with you. Well, that's not the right thing to do, is it? That's not the right thing to do. Supposed to be reviewed. Review the contract. Yep. Question number 16. A governance audit reveals inconsistent risk management across the projects in your portfolio. It's a government audit, by the way. What is your best immediate action? Run. That should be your action. You don't want to mess with the government, do you? That's a governance, not the government. I correct myself. Inconsistent risk management across projects, all the projects under your portfolio. The Charlies and Alphas. A lot of Charlies and Alphas. Okay. Think. Inconsistent risk management across projects. It's a governance audit, maybe done by the PMO. So for Project Alpha, you're using a different process of risk management. For Project Bravo, you're using a different process for that. This is what the governance audit found out. I'm literally feeding the answers to you now because I know one of you is wrong. Either people going alphas are wrong or Charlies are wrong. Okay. The answer is actually Charlie. You provide trainings and the tools to the project managers on risk management best practices. You see, One is that you implement something forcefully. Now, the problem here is, and that's why I said it again, that one project is using a very different process of risk management. The other one is using a very different process of risk management, right? Now, if you simply mandate a standardized risk management process across all the parties, you'll not be able to build the consensus because, the project managers would think that why to go with that process? What's wrong with my process? Why I can't go with my process? And that's very natural that this ego clash of the project managers will start colliding with each other, right? So first, we need to provide them the trainings, make them understand that why this is the correct process. And then what are the best practices? And accordingly, we'll define a common strategy to be followed by all the projects within that portfolio. So, Charlie, here's the answer. Question number 17. Your hybrid project is facing scope creep from multiple stakeholders add in unprioritized features. The team feels overwhelmed. What is your best? That's a very common thing that you're going to see in hybrids because you have too many of these stakeholders involved. The requirements coming from various different directions. So that's a very common thing in hybrids. Can delta be an answer? Can that be an answer? Abdul goes, Charlie. Increase the team size to accommodate additional work. Okay. Okay, that's a pretty simple question actually. If you look, it's not that difficult. The problem is there is a lot of these unprioritized features coming in into your backlog. You expect those changes in hybrids, right? So phase to phase, as you go into the progressive elaboration, you may have more changes coming in, and you try and adapt to those. Uh, Remember what I said about um, the hybrid projects? That when it comes to the execution, that means the scheduling and the costing, there's always more aligned with the HR. And the scope is always more aligned with the predictive. More aligned doesn't mean pure predictive, more aligned to the predictive. So you know a lot of things about the project scope, but then there would be things that you expect to come into the backlog, the PAI, later during the execution. Correct? So you need to facilitate a prioritization workshop with those key stakeholders and the product owner. That should be your answer. Question number 18. The earned value data indicates that the CPI is 1.2, but a negative cost variance of $50,000. What does this suggest? CPI is positive, but the cost variance is negative. How did that happen? You'll be surprised to know the answer. Trust me. A lot of Charlies, apparently. Okay. The answer is the cost data is inconsistent. Revalidate earned value calculations. Why I said that? Let's do it practically. Let us say the actual cost of the project is approximately $3,000. Okay, that's the actual cost as in today. And your earned value is 2,200. Okay, so when it comes to the cost variance, what's the formula? Adil? EV minus AC, correct? So 3,000, I'm sorry, 2,200 minus 3,000 equals to negative 800. This is what it is saying. Negative, right? Now, when it comes to the CPI is earned value divided by the actual cost. So when you say 2,200 divided by 3,000, it's going to be less than 1. Okay? So it cannot happen that the CPI is 1.2 and your cost variance is negative. It is impossible. So that means your data is inconsistent. You need to revalidate the earned value calculations. I just did that practically to you. How many of you understood that? Say I. Yes, that's the practical explanation. Delta could also be the answer, but then the question is that how can you do that without validating your data source? Yes, I know, Umar, but to take this decision, you cannot go with the thumb rules, can you? That if the cost variance is negative, how can the CPI be positive? You have to go back and check if my data is consistent, because that may result into these wrong calculations. Correct? So rather than jumping onto an action and giving a verdict, just go back and reconcile. Okay, remember that one line that I said during the classes, the details, the devil is always in the details. Who remembers that? The devil is always in the details. You need to go back, check the data source. Remember that part? Yes. Question number 19. Your project team's velocity has been declining for 3 sprints now. Despite no scope increase, the Scrum Master reports unresolved conflicts among the team members. What is your best intervention? The best thing that you could do? All right. The answer is bravo. That was a rather easy question. Facilitate the team building sessions and conflict resolution workshops because the velocity is going down because of the internal conflicts between the team members. Right. Let's facilitate. Let's do a team building exercise. Okay. Question number 20, ladies and gentlemen. A regulatory change requires additional documentation on quality audits mid project. This was not in the baseline. How should you respond to this? Okay. Read the question again for me, please. So, regulatory change requires additional documentation on the quality audit mid project. All right. First the analysis, then the action, right? Let's go alpha. Okay. New regulatory requirements constitute a scope change required in formal change control. These were the questions, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me, how many correct answers that you have given? Did you keep account of this? Give me your scores. Adil got 18, Debashish got 16, 9 out of 10 for Vinod. Walid got 19, Omar got 19. Good numbers. Kuldeep got 14. Kuldeep, my brother. Abdul got 8 out of 20. I asked Abdul before. I'm asking now. Are you one of my participants? Did you sit in my classes? Kader? Yes? We need to talk, my brother. Is real exam questions in this level competence? A lot of them, yes. I'm trying to keep them very similar to the 2021 format of the exam. So if you see, hey, did I tell you I wrote my PMP twice? 2006, 2021. The only reason I gave the exam in 2021 to see what the new format is, I had an option to go for an agile certification and continue with my requirements to become an ATP. I risked my certificate for that, the existing PMP that I had. I risked it. As for the email, the Q&A session is scheduled for 9:30 a.m. UAE, but it is often starts earlier. No, it didn't actually. I start the session, so I start that. I mean, it may be initiated, but the class starts. The Q&A starts after 11 India time, which is after around 9:32 a.m. Kindly request your clarification. Yes, I just did. Hadil, what time we started the first question? I believe 9:35 your time. Jim, I asked Jim actually the time today. Around 9:30, right? Uh, but yeah, Manzoor, we can always. So we generally start at 9:30 India. No, sorry, the UAE 11 India. No, Abdul, we said you ping me. We need to talk. You and me, we need to talk. Okay. Saudi is 8:30. Yes. So I said you ping me on LinkedIn or WhatsApp whenever you have the time. Not today. I have 12 hours of classes today, so I cannot do that. Maybe tomorrow sometime when you have time, just ping me. Okay. I need to talk to you, brother. All right. So good performance, guys. 9:35 first question. Yes, Renee. How can I contact you? Oh, I'm a part of your group, your WhatsApp group, where you get those invitations for the classes. We are in Saudi Arabia. I was in Saudi in December, from 20th December to 29th of December. Um, you heard about CAPSARC? So that's a research organization. The King, um, CAPSARC's King. What's the full name? Ah, Jesus. So I was there for a PMP training. So in Riyadh. So the CAPSARC is in Riyadh, right? I was there. Hey, the Saudi has changed like anything. I was there last time in 2014 and then in 2024, December. It looks like more like the US and less like Saudi nowadays. So congratulations on that. Fantastic infrastructure. very clean roads, the metros everywhere. Absolutely fantastic. I loved that this time. Absolutely amazing. And I always love the food in Saudi. The best food in the world is Saudi food. I can tell you that. I may be biased, but yeah. King Abdullah Petroleum Science Research Center. Yes, the CAPSOC, Afros. So I was delivering a PMP training at the CAPSOC. What a campus that they have. Have you seen that campus? Oh, that's in Miles. Miles, such a big campus that they have. And food is awesome. Wonderful food. All right, fantastic. Now, before we move into the second part of it, 5 minutes break. Would that be okay? Take 5 minutes, right? Adil is like, yes, please. Mm. Okay, let's take 5 minutes. I'll see you after the break. Bye bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be all back after the break. Roll call, please. Are we guys back? Okay. So now we'll start with the second part, in which you're going to type your questions on the chat window and I'll read and answer them one by one. The floor is yours. Any questions that you have related to the course, the content, certification, um, application process, any doubts that you have? Yes, Samshir. Tell me. Meanwhile, anybody else who has a question, initially submit in my application. Do we need someone to review? You can send that to me. I can check that. Adil did. I suggested changes. She did that. She got the approval, right? So that means it is good to get it reviewed. What is the steps after the course completion for the certification? I told you those on the last class. So what you have to do is, if you're not a member of the PMI, you take the membership today. How to share? Send that on my WhatsApp, or maybe drop at the LinkedIn. How many projects should be included in the application? The number of projects that you have done. When I submitted my application, I submitted only 2 projects because one project was of 2 years, the other one was 1.5. Okay. And both of them suffice to those 3 years of experience, which is required. The more projects that you go into, the more details that you have to provide, the more chances of audits. Okay. So keep it simple. Just go with the facts. Jim. So if you have done 3 projects in the last 3 years, you go with those. Do I need to become the member first? Okay, I'll tell you why you need to become the member. Because you pay $129 to become a member, right? And then when you are about to book the exam, for the members, the fees is $405. For the non-members, it is $555. So you are submitting 129 today, which saves you 150 in the future. So you are actually saving $21. I mean, it's not big, $21, but at the same time, you get access to your own PMI membership era. You get your own copy of the PMBOK, registered copy of the PMBOK. You get some sample questions, you get case studies, you get white papers, you get the members data access. So there are benefits of becoming a member. So anyways, you should become the member if you write in the exam, because otherwise you pay $555 and don't have your own copy. Is it only people who are already handled projects as the project manager can write the exam? You want to ask me this question on a recorded line, Kumar? Seriously, buddy? Yes. The answer is yes. Come on. This goes on YouTube. You know that? You want to ask this question? The answer to your question is yes. Okay, somebody asked me what's the process after the class. Once you finish the classes, you go to the pmi.org. You become the member by paying $129. You become the member. And then the next should be to file your application, which takes $10 as the application fee. You write the application in which you tell your experiences, the number of projects that you worked in the last 3 years if you're a graduate, or the last 5 years if you're an undergrad. Those should be in the last 8 consecutive years. Okay. So in the last 8 years, any point of time when you worked 3 years continuously, on projects. You take out those project details, you file those, submit the application. The PMI will take about a week to approve that application. And then you book the exam and write the exam. In exam, how many questions should be correct to pass? You see, the PMI never officially disclosed the percentage. But in my previous organization, we wrote that as a query to the PMI. And the PMI said it on the mail that you need to score 80% in all the three domains. Officially, I have it on writing from the PMI. So 80% in process domain, people's domain, business environment domain. Another question that I have is uh, can be attend the exam in Saudi Arabia? Yes, Abdul. In Saudi, you have exam centers in Riyadh. You have one in Jeddah, I guess. Dammam, I guess you have in Dammam as well. So where do you live? That depends upon that. Just go to the pearsons.com and that's where you're gonna have. Yeah, I guess you have one in Dammam. I mean, Riyadh definitely have not one but two centers. I guess there are two. Just go to the Pearson's website. Just enter your location. Okay. So Pearson is the testing partners to the PMI. Initially, that used to be many years ago. That used to be the Prometric, right? Uh, then the PMI changed it in 2021 from the Prometric. In fact, before that, I guess, to the Pearson. So now you have a lot of these centers. In exam, how many questions? I answered that. As we have to submit the PMP application, is there a standard format to write the application? Get in touch with your counselor, Samshir. I have already given those templates, sample applications, do's and don'ts. They can share that with you. Go through that documentation and write the application accordingly. They already have this. I shared that. Yeah, I know, but then they must have given you some sample applications or a standard format of that, didn't they? I'll talk to them. No problem. I'll talk to them. They'll send you the documentation. Samshir. You're one of my favorite pals, so yeah. Otherwise, just ping me, right? I'll share those with you. Okay? No problem. Hey, Adil, send this final application that you submitted to me. I need to check that because that got approved, right? Adil, I will also, yes. So send that one to me, girl. So only the PM means AM, DM, not allowed. You see, it doesn't matter what your designation is. I actually said that on the first day. Remember that nowhere the PMI says that your designation needs to be that of the project manager. You could be an assistant manager, you could be a vice president, you could be a director, you could be the team lead, as long as you will lead in the project activities, or you should be good. The designation doesn't matter. But if you have worked on the projects, that does. Okay? No problem, Kumar. Yeah, guys, just give me one sec. I'll just be back with you. I'm back. as I was involved in closing the project's phase and that project is still active. Oh, then you write continuous. I mean, so the PMI gives you the option. Is that an ongoing project? So you can check on that checkbox that it's an ongoing project. So the PMI will count from where the project started and you are still into the project. It will count the duration. Voice is unclear. What happened now? Alfred Bravo. Guys, am I audible? Okay. Maybe a slight glitch. The power just went off. So the weather in North India is horrible nowadays from the last 2, 3 weeks now. A lot of flood, rain, everything. So at times the power just went off right now. What about Delhi? What about it? Delhi is bad. Delhi is going through a lot of these flooded roads nowadays. Once done with the classes, we will have test practices and our access to the simulation to train. Yes, you already have a couple of those inside your LMS. And then I have given you a few more as a part of the Google Drive link. Jim, before the test, I would simply say that all you need is 100 hours of study. Now, approximately 40 hours goes in reading. I've suggested that book. I don't want to say that because that's a recorded line and that goes on the YouTube. So I just don't want to mention the name of that book right here. But you know what book I'm talking about, right? So you just read that one book and then go for this simulation, as many as you can write for the next 60 hours. That should be good enough. I have completed on projects and practically handed over the project and it been operationally, but the project owner not interested to sign the handed over the project documents. It's your current situation. Why he will not give you the documentation when you close the project? Go sit with him, negotiate, ask him that when we did that, when we deliver. So take your scope document with you, sit with him, say, Mr. Owner, these were the 10 deliverables. We delivered those. You accepted those, right? These are your acceptances. Just give us a final acceptance. You go happy, Mr. Customer. We go happy. Sit with him. You have to talk to him. Nobody else can do that for you. That's your job, my brother. This is what you need to do. Questions, ladies and gentlemen. Even if you have received the payments, you still need documentation. You still need documentation, my brother. Tomorrow, if you have to give a reference to some other customer, how would you do that without the documentation? Yeah. You see, this is what I was talking about. What you do at the site versus when you read the book, that contradicts with each other. Could you please keep the application form? That's a good idea, actually. Vinod, you guys you want me to upload those documents on the Google Drive? I can do that. What is win-win, win, lose, lose, lose? Win-win is you go happy, I go happy. Win-lose is I go happy as the project manager, you go sad as the contractor. Lose lose is I go sad, you go sad. That's the difference. The negotiations, why do you negotiate with the contractors? Tell me, Samsher. Because you want to reach to that win win where you are not twisting the hand of the contractor so hard that although he's working on the project, but he's not happy, he's going to mess up your project. I can tell you that. At a later stage, he's going to do that because he's not happy, right? So it's a will lose. So the idea is to reach a win win where I'm happy that I got a fair deal, where the contractor is happy that he's getting paid for his hard work. That is what it should be. The whole idea behind negotiation is to reach that win win. The lose lose is you are not winning, I'm not winning. Okay? That's the most horrible. So is the win lose. If I'm winning, but the contractor is not, that's not that's not a good thing either. You send me the application, I'll review it. Samshir? Yes. Hey guys, this is our seventh week that we are doing these Q&A sessions. Do you genuinely think that it is adding value? What's your genuine opinion about it? Is it a value add? For sure. Yes. Okay. You want us to continue with that? You want us to continue with that? Oh, that gives us an opportunity to discuss, once a week at least. We come together, we talk about those things. So I think it's fair, right? Yeah. You want me to next time go with even more intense questions? Because from the last 2 weeks, if you're noticing, I'm going really intense. I write tough questions. 1st of October in Riyadh. Fantastic afros. All the best to you, my brother. Recordings of the Q&A session is on the YouTube. You go to our YouTube channel, the IMC channel. I have read online about some. Okay. I recommend you to go through it. This is from one of my best pals. I know what you're talking about. But then if I say that on a YouTube video, then the copyrights and those things comes into the picture. That's why I'm not saying it, Jim. But it is worth checking. That guy is one of my best pal. Okay. Is there a format handed over in PMP? What format? Format about what? The videos, YouTube videos. Ah, you can check those. Go to the IMC certification official format about the models. I'm not able to comprehend with that question. You're talking about the exam application format or what format? The format of those documents that you prepared during the project. So I'm not able to comprehend with that. Any other question? I'll be uploading, sample formats for filing the application. Vinod suggested that, so I'm just going to do that. How to come out of conclusion between two options most of times get stuck. Analysis, action. Remember these two things. Analyze the situation first, then you take the action. Whichever option talks about analysis first, go with that option. Vijay. And one of them will definitely talk about analysis. Okay. Let me give you a few more tips. When you write in the exam, if the question doesn't explicitly says that it's a hybrid project or an agile project, then by default, it's a predictive project. Okay. So if the question is not explaining to you that what project methodology is it, it is by default predictive. Okay. If it is an agile project or a hybrid project, the PMI will tell you that. That's one tip. The second tip is that if the PMI is not telling you explicitly that it's a small project or it's a pilot project, if the PMI is not saying that, that by default, it's a big project by default, which is in $1 million, which has like 80 plus people working. It's a big project by default. Okay. That's the second one. Another tip. No, I cannot, Abdul, I cannot blow that full screen. It's a recorded line. So if that's a reference from some other material, what is it? What are you searching? What is this thing? What's that screenshot? Do we need to upload any documents of projects that we worked as a proof file? No, you don't have to. Only in case of audits, the PMI will send a format, you fill that format, you get it signed and stamped, and you send that to the PMI. Okay. Now the PMI may ask you to send them physical documentation using the postal services, or maybe if it is a digital one, which is allowed, that varies from one to the other country and geography. If they are allowing it, just upload those. They give you both the options. Search from the IMC Institute YouTube channel. Okay. Adil, can you paste that IMC's YouTube link, please? Where we have these videos. Please continue with the test tips. Yes. So, first is if it is not explained otherwise, it's a predictive project. Second, if it is not explained otherwise, it's a big project. Third is that the PMI believes that you are an experienced project manager and you know the processes pretty well. So they'll not spoon feed you. So do not expect them to tell you step-by-step process, because PMI thinks you are an experienced project manager, because the minimum requirement is 3 years before appearing in the examination. That's the third one. The fourth tip is that when you read the question, always read the first line of the question, and then immediately after that, read the last line. So the first line of the question says you are managing a big infrastructure project. Now that's the first line. The last line says what you should do next. Correct? It's a big infrastructure project, what you should do next. And then you go back and read the whole question. Because now when you're reading that question, you already know that at the end of the question, the PMI will ask me, what should I do next? So my perspective of reading the question will be, my whole view is, when I'm reading the question, the only thing in my mind is, I need to read it in a way to figure out that what should be my next step. It's a big tip. Trust me, you're going to thank me later for that. Okay? First line, last line, then go back and read the whole question. Because now you already know what the PMI is going to ask me at the end of the day. Okay? All right. So that was one. Tip number 5, read the question as a servant leader, not as the project manager. Always think about that in this situation, what a servant leader will do, not what the project manager will do. We talked about servant leadership in detail, Jim. So if you follow that single trick, you'll be able to answer more than half of the questions very easily. Think about what the servant leader will do, not what the project manager will do. So, give you 5 tips. That's going to be $25 plus taxes, okay? Example of the third. What did I say about the third tip? The PMI considers that you are an experienced project manager. The PMI will assume, yes, the PMI will assume that you know what Kanban is. They'll assume what the plan in poker is. They'll assume what Moscow analysis and Kano models are. The PMI assumes that you are an experienced project manager. The PMI assumes that you know how to do the resource estimation, how to do the duration estimation. The PMI thinks that you know what PERT analysis is. They'll not spoon feed you on this. They think that you know these things. And they're simply going to ask you the question, if you were using Paretos, what you should do. Because they know that you understand what Paretos are. These are the examples. So, Jim, by background, you are from what? Infrastructure projects, mechanical projects, what? Oil and gas? What's your background? Supply chain logistics? Okay. MMSD modules, maybe? SAP? Is it? Where can I learn Microsoft Project? We need to see. I mean, so a lot of queries are actually coming from Microsoft Project. Do you think we should run a batch of Microsoft Project? I can actually suggest that to, yes. So I can actually suggest that to the team that let's see if we have enough numbers. Let's say, even if 25, 30 people, if we have that number, we can run a batch for Microsoft Project here at the IMC. Otherwise, you need to go through the online sources, do a Google search for that. No organization, I can tell you that in my previous organization, that is one of the biggest of the IT training companies in the world, right? I was the lead of the PMP there. But then even they did not run live class in a Microsoft project. Okay. One, you don't find a better trainer. Two, we don't find the numbers. So if we have the numbers, I'm a Microsoft certified technology specialist of Microsoft project. So they said no. Yeah, because we don't have numbers. You have to look at it commercially. Some share. But let me just go back and check with the team that, just do a survey with all of our existing participants that how many of those wants to go ahead do the PMP, the Microsoft project. If we get enough numbers, we can do that. But then you have to arrange the software yourself. We cannot give you the licenses of Microsoft project. You need to have your own. I have a license with me. Bought one many years ago. It's a 2019 license. I have that, so I can explain using that license. But then to practice, you need your software. Check if they provide an academic license, if Microsoft provides an academic license. I don't think that they do, but if they do, then how much that cost? So a lot of factors. Any other question, ladies and gentlemen? I can take one more. We still have like 10, 15 minutes to go. Any other question? I'm planning to do next session on next Sunday. You want to come and join? Should I announce that? Yes? All right. Will IMC help in filling the application? Now, that depends upon if you have taken up that service. I don't know that because I don't go into those details. I'm a delivery guy, right? My work is to go and deliver. I'm not into sales and commercial part. So you need to check with them if that was a part of the services that you opted for. If you did, then definitely they'll help you. Yep. All right. So I'm planning another one next week on Sunday. Okay. Fantastic. I have a class from 2 to 6 India time and then from 8:30 to 12:30. So I'll go ahead and do those classes because I believe this service is available with the IMC. Yes, it is. It is. But then you have to opt for that. That depends upon if you opted the exam preparation along with it, or did you opt for only for the training part? So yeah, really, I'm happy to join your classes. Fantastic, Abdul. Same here, my brother. All right, good for today, right? I shall see you next week now, inshallah. Let's see how that goes. And this will go on the IMC's YouTube channel, so you can always go back and check those. Thank you so much. Let's wrap it up for today. Thank you, guys. Bye bye. God bless you.